Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to critically appreciate one of the poetries written by Sri Aurobindo, which is titled The Tiger and the Deer. Now, this is one of the unique poems in itself because it has got a deep philosophical tone. The poem talks about the two extremes which is present in nature, the duality of nature. On one hand, we have deer, on the other hand, we have tiger. The deer, which is the innocent being, the timid, the humble deer, whereas the tiger, the experienced, the predator, the deer, the prey. So you see, both the extremes are existing in this nature itself. The fire and the ice both are present here itself. It also signifies the process of evolution. It also signifies the way the world continues. It also signifies the food chain. So many things, so many innate layers and layers of meaning are embedded in this poetry when we talk about the deer and the tiger. Plus, one more thing you see, we can compare this poetry with the poems written by Blake. When Blake talks about the songs of experience and the songs of innocence, so he says, or he represents deer as the epitome of innocence, whereas tiger as the epitome of experience. A similar kind of comparison you see in Aurobindo also, but at the end of the poetry there is something which is unique in itself, because Aurobindo by the end of the poem says that although you may be the powerful, although you may be the predator, although you may be the tiger, you at many times would pounce upon the timid deer and eat it up, devour it up, but a time will come when you will have to pay back for whatever ills, whatever evils you have done. So it is the theory of karma, you can say, the theory of whatever you sow, you reap, whatever you give, you get back somehow or the other. Maybe not exactly directly, but by some other form you will finally have to repay what you have done. So this is the deep heavy meaning which Aurobindo contains in the poetry. And before moving into the line by line analysis of the poem, let's have a brief look into who Aurobindo was. Aurobindo, also referred to as Sri Aurobindo, was named Aurobindo Ghosh. He was born on 15th of August 1872 and his lifespan was till 5th of December 1950. He was an Indian philosopher, a yogi, a guru, a poet, and a nationalist. So he joined the Indian national freedom struggle, and he fought against the British rule for the free India, for the independent India. And he was one of the influential leaders for a while. But then he went into more deeper philosophical understanding of this world and turned into a spiritual reformer. He introduced his visions on human progress and spiritual evolution. His main literary works are, the most important of them are The Life Divine, which talks about what is yoga and the intricacies of yoga, whereas the other one is the epic poetry titled Savitri, a legend and a symbol, which is based on the mythology of Satyavan and Savitri, where Savitri saves her husband Satyavan from the hands of Yamraj and brings him back to this world. So this is again, you can say, a more very philosophical poetry, plus very mythological in tone, and has got a deep meaning in it. But today we are talking about the poetry The Tiger and the Deer. So let's begin line by line. I'll try to explain it. So let's begin. First lines: brilliant, crouching, slouching, what crept through the green heart of the forest? Gleaming eyes and mighty chest, and soft, soundless paws of grandeur and murder? Question mark. You see, here he talks about tiger. The tiger who is hiding in the green heart of the forest. It's hidden behind the leaves. It's waiting for the prey to come so that he can pounce. So he will not disclose his height about. He is hidden, he is crouching, slowly he is walking, he is slouching, crouching in a soft manner so that the deer will not be able to understand that the tiger is there waiting for him. And the tiger, he talks or he uses the word brilliant. It has got gleaming eyes and mighty chest, so it shows all grandeur. But the paws are soundless. Very softly the tiger is walking, and it signifies grandeur plus murder, because the tiger is finally going to kill the deer. So although it is very grand and mighty and all those things, but still it signifies murder. The wind slipped through the leaves as if afraid lest its voice and the noise of its steps perturb the pitiless splendor, hardly daring to breathe. But the great beast crouched and crept and crept and crouched a last time, noiseless, fatal. So you see, the winds are moving through the leaves but not making any noise, because the tiger is so softly walking. It does not want to give away its height about. It does not want to make any noise. It is afraid to bring out any kind of voice, so the noise of his steps is not heard by anyone, not heard by the deer, who is totally unaware what is happening around. It's totally unaware that the tiger is waiting for the deer and is waiting to pounce upon the deer. So the tiger is hardly breathing, because even if the sound of the wind of or the sound of his inhaling and exhaling can disturb the tiger, so he does not want to give away, and that's why he is hardly breathing. He is softly walking, and he is crouching step by step, and there is the last time when he walks, and that last step is also noiseless but fatal. It is going to kill. That last step is going to leap on the deer, till suddenly death leapt on the beautiful wild deer as it drank, unsuspecting, from the great pool in the forest coolness and shadows. So the deer was totally unaware. It was drinking from the cool forest's pool, and suddenly on the beautiful wild deer the death leaps. The tiger leaps and it falls. And it fell and died, remembering its mate, left soul in the deep woodland. So the deer here is alone, and the mate is left back in the forest. So before dying, the deer remembers his soulmate, who is left back in the forest, unaware of what is happening here. And the last time he remembers the beloved, and then he is gone. He dies. Destroyed the mild, harmless beauty by the strong, cruel beauty in nature. You see, both are the beauties of nature. One is the mild one, the harmless one. The other one is the strong one, the cruel one. So that is the duality of nature. That is the uniqueness of nature. That is the relationship between the predator and the prey. But a day may yet come when the tiger crouches and leaps no more. You see, whoever has taken birth has to die. Today the deer has gone. Today the deer has met its end. But will the tiger always be the same powerful one? Will it not die someday? No. Everyone has its time. Time and tide waits for none. And we can say the time or the fate and the death. These are the three things which are eternal. So whatever or however strong you are, however powerful you are, this is the message which Aurobindo gives. The very strong message that today the tiger has pounced upon the deer and devoured it, but this is not the end, because a day will come when the tiger will also crouch no more. It will also leap no more in the dangerous heart of the forest, as the mammoth shakes no more the plains of Asia. So he is giving the examples of the species which are extinct. The mammoth, which were once one populating species in Asia, but it is now extinct. The same fate will be of the tiger. Still then shall the beautiful wild deer drink from the coolness of great pools in the leaves' shadow. So a day will come when the same deer will be drinking from the pool, maybe not the same deer, obviously, the genes, the similar species will be drinking from the pool, from the coolness of the forest, but the tiger will there be no more. So at last he says that the mighty perish in their might, the slain survive the slayer. A very powerful statement to make. He says that the mighty will perish in their might. Their might will not be eternal. One day the power will go, but the person who has been slayed, the slain, will survive the slayer. A day will come when the people who are innocent, who are being suppressed, who are marginalized, we can see it in this way also, that the people who are being marginalized will one day come back to power. They will, as we can say that जो लोग हाशिए पे हैं, someday they will come to the center. So that is the uniqueness of Aurobindo, what he tries to say. And in this vein only, at last I remember this one quote, a doha, which says that माटी कहे कुम्हार से तू क्या रूंधे मोए, एक दिन ऐसा आएगा मैं रूंधूंगी तोए. You see, when a pot maker is constructing any clay work, it is making a pot, it mashes the mud, and the mud is saying that today you are trying to give me shape and you are putting all kind of external forces on me, but there will be a day when you are going to return back to this mud, you are going to return back to this soil. This is the fate of human body. This is the fate of anyone who is born in nature. This is the chain of nature. This is the cycle of nature. This is the unique speciality of nature, that nobody is eternal, be it the tiger, be it the human beings, or be it the deer. Today you may be powerful, you may try to overcome others, but a day will come that you will also be labeled, you death the leveler kind of thing which comes to the mind. So that is the philosophical claim what Aurobindo tries to portray in this poetry. And the poetry is written in free verse, no fixed rhyme scheme as such. So basically the main idea is, or the main important aspect of the poem is the poem itself, the meaning, the layers and layers of meaning that we unravel while reading the poem. So that is all about this poetry. I'm sure you must have understood it. If yes, then please don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment. Thank you.